Hello and welcome to VRAI Talk, where in this episode we're going to be recapping and talking about London Fashion Week, which just happened this past weekend. I'm Danny, editor-in-chief of VRAI Magazine, and joining me today is Chiyoko, our fashion editor, live from Brussels. Hi, Chiyoko.
Hi guys. Hi Danny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to be in Brussels, back in Brussels. It's a lot of nature. I feel connected to Earth, which is very much needed now.
Good. I'm glad.
Yes. So how
I'm
are
glad.
you?
I'm good. I can't believe it's been like 2 weeks since we chatted, or has it been more? I can't even, I'm losing track of
Oh,
time again.
maybe 2 weeks. Yes, you're right.
Maybe 2 weeks.
Mm,
Well, I'm glad we can do another episode of Ray Talk here. And this
thank
time
you.
we're going to be talking about something a little bit different because London Fashion Week just had their 3-day genderless digital fashion show. All right. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start in terms of just overall reactions to, London Fashion Week this past week?
They did an amazing job for putting everything together under these circumstances, right? Some of them did it all by themselves. Maybe they knew how to do it, maybe they didn't, but they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for that, it's a my 100% admiration to them, even more than before, that they are able to create something under the pressure. And I think it was a big congratulations to everybody. That's for sure. And this is like historical moment as well. So yeah, that's what I most of all wanted to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, kudos to, the BFC, to the designers, to all the
Mm,
people they collaborated with
mm,
to pull this all together. I mean, when you go to the site, and I'll make sure for anybody that didn't get a chance to see, any of the Fashion Week, because it's open to everybody. I'll put
yeah.
a link in the video so everybody can see where to go. But it was so professional. It was, well organized, well laid out,
Mm,
to the point where there was a lot of content. There was a lot of content on the site
a
where
lot.
I was a little sometimes like, what do I look at? Where do I go? But
Mm, mm,
it's good to be able to filter and sort out what you're looking for,
mm,
because there was more than just actual fashion content. There was other
mm,
stuff like music, stories, different little things posted throughout the London Fashion Week website. So,
mm,
so like you said, I agree. Kudos to everybody for doing such a great job. Given the difficult, the dark circumstances we're all living in
mm,
right now,
yeah.
to be able to pull it off. And we'll talk about this a little deeper, but some of the videos that I saw were like, wow, if you can pull this off in
I
this type of
agree.
situation, I can only imagine what you'd be able to pull off under normal circumstances. So, but we'll get into that deeper. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I'll talk about too is what's different about this time is because Fashion Week is really a closed event for people in the
Mhm,
industry, right?
mhm,
And this time it was a chance for from people all around the globe to actually see
mm.
and participate
Yep.
in it. And so that's the good aspect of it as well too. As I'm looking at my notes here, because my I can't remember everything. I'm looking at my notes.
No,
Um,
but for me, what I liked about this digital is that you can always go back to it.
yeah,
Because when you are during the show, you run one to another like all day long, and you almost forgot what you saw in the morning. In a way, it's just back to back. But this way, we can always go back. We can always find our own time to really enjoy,
mhm.
or to understand. So I appreciate. In a way, I liked it,
I
or even
agree.
though it's missing the intimacy. Huh?
No, I agree because, I'm in the US, so, 6 hours behind, I wake up,
True.
things are already happening.
Mm.
I mean, I could have woken up early, but, no. I'm not a morning,
No.
I'm not a morning person. And so a lot of it I would not have retained a lot of it in my head. I would have, just slept through a lot of it. So
Mm,
it's good to be able to, go back and revisit some stuff, because I too will go back and actually look at some of the stuff, because in
mm,
deeper analysis, and just look at it more,
definitely.
and some of the other content, because like you said, there's a lot of stuff there. Now,
Mm,
I'm going to say that so overall, bravo to to the BFC and
Definitely.
everybody for pulling this together. Um,
Yeah.
at the same time, on the opposite side, right, I think there
Mhm.
are some challenges in terms of presenting digitally, right, despite
Yeah.
this age and time.
Mhm.
And I heard some of the designers say it as well too, and some of the people participating say this as well too. But it's just hard to compare this format to an
Mhm.
actual live event, whether it's a
Yes. Yeah.
catwalk, whether it's a presentation, or whatever. It's just it's very different. It's night and day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the energy level isn't there. It's
No.
just very different.
Yeah.
And when I'm watching this from my house clothes, I'm not I'm not like dressed up and ready to
Yeah.
go. Not that I get all geared up when I go to Fashion Week. I mean, I dress up to be prepared to be in public, but it's different watching it from home and seeing
True.
all this stuff. The energy level, it's not the same. It's just a very different experience in that regard, in my
I
perspective.
also, no, I really agree with you. And also that I understand these, how to say, the clip or movie they created is the message to share their world or their collection, and why not? Uh, but I wish I could see a little more of clothes.
Ah,
That's what I felt like a bit of missing. It's and what I understood is that the designer and the brand can choose if they want to show SS21 or AW20. So I saw some of the brand decided to show AW20. So for that, it's a I can see we're still searching for a better ground, I feel like.
hmm.
But for the commercial purpose, I think AW20 works better. And then for the SS21, I wish I could see a little more clothes, the actual clothes. But of course, they can't. Some of them, were not able to create, actual product. So I understand that. But that's something that I wish I could have seen a little more. That's how
Yeah.
I felt for the
So,
negative side. Yeah.
so let me ask you, did you look at my notes before we started recording this? Because that's exactly what
No.
I was going to be talking about that
Oh,
next.
serious?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly along what you were just saying, in terms of just some of the opportunities I think could have been presented was the fact that you're right. I didn't see a lot of the clothes and I was missing that. I was
Yeah.
looking for what's the collection. But again, it's true. I mean, how do you create collections when we're all in lockdown and quarantine? So it is challenging. At times, I was looking at some of the, what was being presented and some of the imagery that were being shared, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this autumn or is this autumn winter 20 or is this spring summer 2021? And I was a little confused, like, what is it exactly? And so that was one confusion, and then the other part, like you said, was I wanted to see more of the clothing story, more of that. There were a few that presented the clothing, and there was one that particularly, to me was like the closest thing to a fashion show that I could see in terms of one of the videos that I saw, and we'll talk about that. But that was the other thing that was missing for me, aside from the energy, was the fact that I wanted to see some clothes. I wanted to
Yeah.
react to
I
something
agree.
in terms of what they were creating, what the
Mhm.
inspiration was, and just I wanted to see more of that. That was the other part of it. So I totally agree with
I
you on
really
that
agree with
aspect.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But again, given the circumstances, you have to make do with what you can. And so,
Yes.
despite all that, overall, I mean, bravo to the British Fashion Council and the
Totally.
designers. So
Totally. I
good.
mean, if I were them, I don't know if I were able to pull anything out like that, because it's really difficult to, motivate yourself and be creative
Yeah.
in this under that kind of stress, because they, maybe their family, friends could be infected, or so anything could happen, right, to anybody. And so, yeah, totally, totally. It's amazing that what they did during this period.
Yeah.
But
Well, good.
would you like to dig in?
Let's dig. Yeah, I want to dig in, but let me ask you a question before we dig in, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, given that everybody watches or watched Fashion Week differently,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
be honest. Were you watching it like as shows were presented and on the schedule, or were you watching it all at once, or how were you watching it, Chiyoko? I'm just curious. I'll tell you honestly how I watched it as well. So.
Okay, so there's I guess there was an incident. I tried to watch something on time, and then they didn't start on time, and it made me a bit frustrated,
Uh-huh.
because I made time to watch it, right? And I had an appointment afterwards, so I waited, and then I couldn't wait anymore, so I have to move on to do my own thing. So for that, afterwards, I just decided not to watch on time, just go back and watch it so that I would be more efficient in terms of my time management. So that's why I was saying in the beginning, I liked it in a way that I can manage it in my own way.
Mm.
So that was one thing. And another way is that I can, pick and watch, whichever I want to, the designer I like, or curious what they did. So I watched it that way. I didn't go like as a schedule. No.
Got it. Well, thank you for being
What about you,
honest. I
Danny?
appreciate it. No, what about me? So by the time I woke up, there was a bunch of shows and events and videos and whatever already available, and it listed it
Mm-hmm.
as finished.
Ah, true.
So by the time I woke up, I go to the finished section, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of go through the ones that had been already presented during that morning. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, I go off and do my errands and stuff I needed to do for the day and whatever work I needed to do. And then I'd come back. So basically, to be honest with you, I would tune in kind of three times throughout the day. Like when I woke
Mm-hmm.
up, one around lunchtime when I had to take a break, and then another time in the evening once everything had caught up and
Mm-hmm.
finished, because you guys, Europe is several hours ahead and everything.
True.
So I had a chance to do that. So I would watch it in groupings. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other thing too is I would purposely watch the little videos, um, kind of one right after the other to get a feel for the different videos. And I would
Mm-hmm.
set aside the discussions and the panel discussions and
Ah.
interviews
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of that session, because those tended to be longer.
True.
Those tended to be much more, you want to make sure you devote time to sit down and listen to them and hear what they had to
Mm-hmm.
say about
True.
whatever the topic was. And because those usually ran maybe half an hour to 40,
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes or something. Whereas a lot of the videos were basically maybe 3 minutes to six, seven, less than 10 minutes long. They were rather quick bursts of creative um, things that were being shown and such like that. So that's how I watched,
Mm-hmm.
over the last three
Pretty
days here.
similar, yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I learned, because sometimes the other thing too is, as I was noticing the trend with some of these videos, they were much shorter, right, in
Yeah, true.
terms of just the length and
Mm.
duration. I'm not going to sit there waiting, planning my day,
Mm.
for the next
Mm.
one, and it's only like 5 minutes long, and that's it.
But
I'd
then
like,
like even the fashion show is like sometimes 5 minutes,
I know,
10
but
minutes waiting for hours.
yes, but at least we're involved. We're
True.
we're we're actually there. We're going through the
Mm.
process of like seeing other people,
Mm.
networking, getting in line, getting into the show. Whereas here, it's like it's different.
It is,
Multitask,
it is, it is. But
multitask.
this was actually, this was my very first London Fashion Week men's. Well, I know it's not genderless.
I know
I
it's
know it's a
genderless.
men's and
Yeah.
women's and but I never really do the men's. So it was quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and again,
Mm.
this is it's hard to compare this to the traditional
Oh
men's
yes,
week that
definitely.
we've had in the
Yeah,
past
I
and
can imagine.
everything.
Yeah.
So it'll be very different. So okay, now that we've gone through that, we can talk about any types of highlights anything that caught
Mm.
our eye, anything that
Oh
caught,
yes.
that, we loved, or any type of thing. So do you
Mm.
want to start? Do you want me to start? Or
Yes,
how do you want
yes,
to do
yes,
this?
yes, yes.
So,
I'm gonna start.
okay, okay.
So Kalki is the my favorite of everything
Hmm.
because it literally took me to the world that he created. Like it's I think that, for the last time we discussed about the Fashion Week, that the thing I love about a Fashion Week is being there to be in the world that they created. And for Kalki, it got me into it so deeply. It felt nice to be lost in his world, and yeah, it's I think he did an amazing job because what I read is he did it all by himself out of his house, and that is incredibly amazing. you know and that he created all these things, that it was, I don't know, just made me smile while watching it. And even afterwards I was like, wow, did he really do this is crazy. So it's that's like my highlight of the entire show, I mean entire Fashion Week.
So again, did you look
Sorry,
at
I
my
can't
did
help my excitement.
did you look at my notes before we started or something? Because, ah,
You know what, Jenny? I think it's good that we share same view. It's very important, huh?
yeah, I think because, as far as the videos that were presented this past weekend, the Kawaki video definitely caught my eye and made a lasting impact.
Mm.
There was a little caveat or note on the at the beginning where it said, this was produced at home with,
Yeah,
with a green screen and very limited.
yeah.
And after watching it, I'm like, I would never have known that you had produced that with a green
I
screen
wouldn't know that.
because
No.
it was so creative.
Yeah.
And what I loved about it is because it is so true. The video was so true to the brand
Mm.
in terms of the
Mm.
style,
Mm.
the whimsical odd story that was presented, that unfolded in the different sections in the chapters.
Mm.
I was just like riveted, like, what is going on here? And I was watching and watching, and and I really loved it. And so just to clarify, the Kawaki brand is based on two designers that come together to create all this. One is more of the designer, one's more of the marketer, but then together they come to create Kawaki. And so, the clothing that I saw was very them. There's a lot of handmade. It's
Mm.
very handcrafted type of looks
Yeah.
and feel, very colorful, very very vibrant. And together with the video, it was on point, and I loved it. It was wonderful. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that one as well too. And
Oh, definitely,
I'm like, I want to
definitely.
see more. Like, what's the next chapter in this story? Because it was such a great little video.
Maybe they will continue, right? I mean, it's
Hint,
like
hint, if they're watching. Hint, hint, if they're watching.
no, but the thing is, I think they open some new door for themselves too, and it's I don't know, it excited me, and it was very that's what I think what's missing, because when you go to the shows, you get excited when you feel all the shows and everything, but now by this movie I feel excited, I feel inspired, I'm like, wow, this is what it's about,
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm gonna share that with you.
No, and you mentioned something too, because the way they filmed this, so this was filmed in their home or one of their homes, or wherever they reside and stuff like that. The other aspect that I'm going to jump to is the fact that a lot of the videos and some of the stuff was, I love that it gave us a peek into the lives of the designers. So
Mm.
there was one video, and I'm looking at my notes. Apologies for looking over. But if I don't take notes, I'm never going to remember this. But there was a video by Robin Lynch. So it showed Robin Lynch creating her capsule collection in her own little apartment, in her own little home, right?
Mhm.
You could see all her thread, you could see her patterns, you can see her fabric, cutting it out and making it and creating it. And it just shows that, you know what, there designers come in all stages of their career in life. Some are doing it from their tiny little room, Some are massive studios because they're more established and have come a long way in terms of just, you know, their exposure and history in and success in fashion world. But to be able to see, you know, where, you know, some of them are coming from and designing from in terms of just their little tables and just the fabric all over the place, it was great to see. And some, even some of the designers even showed like their homes in other parts of the UK, right? And it was
Mm-hmm.
great to see, get a glimpse into their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and their environment, just to personalize it a little more,
Sure.
and make it more relatable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with all these Zoom calls, everybody gets a peek into your home, and like,
Sure.
you know, my boring wall in the back, um, you know, and whatever. But it's interesting to see, you know, their lives, and get a
Mm-hmm.
peek into it. Is just the other thing I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say about that. So
True. True. I
yeah,
agree. I agree.
yeah. So anything else that comes to mind in terms of any of the videos? And let's focus about the videos right now that that come to mind.
Um.
Otherwise, I've got some as well too.
Well. Okay. So for me, it's when I was watching all the designers one after another. Um, some of them is becoming a little too much light. Maybe I'm getting old. I don't know. But I start having a headache because of the screen changes. So many
Mm,
things going on. It's a bit noisy in that the inside the thing. So it's it became a bit difficult for me to continue watching. So I needed to constantly take a break because I really wanted to see all of them.
yeah,
So I understand they had a lot of messages individually, but yeah, for me, like some of them are very I got distracted by all the light and the voice and the noise because it's I'm watching in my screen.
yeah,
It's such a condensed environment, I suppose. So
yeah. No, I hear you,
yeah.
because some of them are very, a lot of fast cuts, a lot of edits, the music, it was very, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, and maybe you are getting old if that's too much for you.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks.
You need something slow and steady, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I hear you. I hear you. The videos to me, you know, aside from the Kawaki, there were other videos, that really caught my attention and really grabbed me, because they really showcased, the clothing. For a few that showcase the clothing, and I'll jump to example. Tiscara Espadas. I don't know if you saw that one. It was shot in primarily in Spain and Barcelona, and
Yes, yes.
I'm very biased because of the fact that I love all things in Spain, right? And so I heard the Spanish music. I heard people Spanish, the Spanish language in the background, you know, the seamstresses
Yes,
and
yes,
the
I
people
remember that.
making it, the style that had a very Spanish influence, and it was very artistic, with this one
It was.
model showcasing the different clothing, but it was very artsy. It was showing, there was just a mood and a feel. When a
Yes.
video can create that mood and feel and draws you in that way,
Mm-mm.
it really caught my eye. And so this was Tiscara Espadas that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
um, and
It
did you
was
guys?
almost like an editorial, of the
Yeah,
magazine.
exactly, that's a great
Yeah,
way of putting it.
by
Yeah,
movie way.
by
Yeah,
movie way,
I
yeah.
totally agree. It was it was very soothing for me to watch as
Hmm,
well.
yeah,
Because it's how do I say this? It's about a clothes,
hmm,
it's about the design. It's about we can see the design very well. He's wearing it, taking it off, putting it on the side. So for that, I really enjoyed it as well.
yeah, yeah. The other one, you know, I'd mentioned this earlier. This one seemed really the closest thing to an actual fashion show or presentation. It was by, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Zhu Zi. It was a computer-generated fashion show where it had male and female models. It was in the city. They were
Yes.
walking around in different city you know, city
Yep.
scenes. They were up in elevators. They were up in different apartments and different
Yes.
rooms. So all the background was computer generated, but these were actual models and people, unless maybe they were computer generated and I couldn't tell, but it just seemed like a fashion show where I could see the clothing being worn. I could see them in the environment of that urban, high-tech modern
Mhm.
world. People lounging around, people walking, people
Yep.
socializing. And that one again caught my eye because it blended computer generated imagery with the
Mm,
clothing, with models, and it brought it all together. So that was
true.
another one that really caught my eye in terms of being able to showcase that collection that they had.
I totally agree with you because I was after I saw that I'm like, how did they do this with all the model wearing it? Then I realized they were showing AW20.
Mm,
So then I was like, that's how they did it.
yeah.
So then I went back to see how are they showing SS21 or are they showing AW20, because that's when I got lost. Because I thought it's SS21. Then I understood that they had a choice to choose either. It's like, so I felt like they were very wise to do so, because all their clothes were already worn by model, so they already had a beautiful shot,
Hmm.
good to use, and how they put it together, incredible.
Yeah.
It was like you watching a little movie, so I definitely agree. And then also what they did, the slow motion, that
Hmm.
you can see the fabric, the way it moves, it was really genius. I liked it.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
you know, I like you taking the shows slow motion, so it kind of made me feel like I was there.
Yeah, no, it was a great use of the technology and being able to
Definitely.
showcase at least an existing collection that they created already,
Mm, mm,
for this type of venue and this type of
yeah.
format. So that was good too.
Yes.
Um, oh, one thing I'll call to mind. So, during a fashion week, the University of Westminster, how they always showcase their graduates
Yes.
each year.
Yep.
And I always love those runway shows and catwalk shows because of the fact that it gives these, graduates a chance to really just show off
Mm,
their
mm,
thinking. And many times these are the collections where they just totally push it and are just like,
true.
they're really so forward thinking that what in the world is that? But it makes you think, right? Um, in the video, it showcased, the different designers, right?
Mm,
But to me what it lacked was that I didn't get a sense it didn't showcase many of the pieces that the designers had created. And the reason I'm saying that is because I wanted them to have a chance to show more of what they created, right? Because
mm,
they're
mm,
so talented and they're up and coming. And and because of the video, it was much shorter. It only
mm.
allowed them a short period of time to
Yes.
really communicate, to show something,
Yep.
versus the traditional catwalk where you
Mm,
see one look after another parading around and finale
yep.
type of thing. So
Yep.
to me that was like, I wish I'd gotten to see more in that regard for that
Mm,
video, just because I know
mm,
they're so talented. And I'd love to see more of their work. And
mm,
I'm
mm,
sure there's
mm.
a way that we're gonna be able to showcase more of their work. It's just during that format that to me was, I wanted more.
Too short. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
um, oh, another thing. Did you get a chance? So I saw the
Uh-oh.
Stephen. I saw the on the last day. Let me put
Mm,
it here. The Stephen Jones millinery video. So Stephen Jones is a milliner. He makes beautiful hats,
mm-hmm.
and the magazine actually showcased some of his work this past January.
Mm-hmm.
Was it January or February? I think probably February during Fashion Week.
Okay.
So he's a milliner. He makes beautiful hat designs. And what he did was very creative because he took these hats, showed them kind of the concept sketches,
Mm-hmm.
and then it showed the hats evolving and being worn by, I'm going to get this wrong, by Nunori. Are you familiar with Nunori? She's on Instagram. She's an avatar. She's
Mm-hmm.
like in her teens, so she's all
Okay.
CGI, right? She has a
Okay. Okay.
huge following. She has a massive following. And
Okay.
so to be able to combine, these hat creations, which to me, when I think of hats, and they're not as prevalent here in the U.S., it's more of a European, a UK thing, right, where women wear hats and stuff.
Oh, true. True.
Yeah, yeah, you don't see that
Which
here.
I'm not really into yet. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't see that here in
Soon
the
I will.
U.S. But what he did was he took his creations and he blended it and did a collaboration with Nunuri this avatar, an Instagram, who has this massive following of young, stylish women, right? And
Yeah,
being able to showcase the two together, it was
that's
just
amazing.
genius. It was
Of
brilliant.
course.
It looked wonderful. I loved how, Nonori has this beautiful face, this
Mm,
innocent face, and then she's paired up with these great, beautiful hat creations. And it
mm,
was it was a wonderful use of blending computer generated
yeah.
CGI with fashion and style. So
Mm,
that was
mm, mm.
one of the other things that caught my eye in terms of some of the videos that were presented over
Yeah,
there.
I should check it out again.
Yeah, yeah. Um, because otherwise, I mean, between you and me, and nobody else is going to know this, sometimes when I see CGI, it doesn't come across the right way in
Mm,
terms
I
of
know
just
what you
the
mean.
execution.
Yeah.
It falls flat. It's not the same thing. But this was just a wonderful collaboration between the designer and
Mm,
the CGI avatar on
mm, mm,
Instagram.
mm, mm.
So definitely check it out though.
Yeah, I will. Was it like a moving or was it just a picture or like
No,
more
it
like an
was
image?
moving. It was like rotating in three
Oh,
dimension. It was very
okay.
CGI, and it was just very eye catching. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'll check it out. I
yeah.
don't know how I missed it. Okay.
It was on Sunday. It was the last day, so maybe by that point.
Ah.
No, but
I'm
definitely,
like, okay, I'm
definitely,
done.
definitely check that one out then. Definitely check that one out
Will do,
then.
will do.
Um, any more videos? Any more that come to mind before we jump
I
into
also like the
discussions and such?
life.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Life. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to say I didn't know them. And when I was like watching, I start understanding more of him and the brand. Talked about how the brand started it and he started showing, and I can see the clothes very closely. And they're about a pocket. So they're collaborating with the other fabrics, other brand. So I get to see more the DNA of the brand, which I liked it, because I didn't know that brand. So it gives me an opportunity to understand what they do, how they do, or how they come up with. So it was very nice.
Yeah, and again, that's another example of the designer showing his creations, and he was modeling his own clothes. I mean,
It was cute.
given these times, you've got to make do. And so he was designing and he was modeling it. He was talking about his brand. It was definitely, interesting to see that and see his look on streetwear and his style. So it was
Yeah, you
no,
do
it
not
was
get
pretty
to
cool.
see the designer actually being the model. So I think it was a quite a historical moment that we saw,
Yeah.
this entire digital online.
Yeah, you'll definitely remember that.
Oh,
Oh, I forgot.
definitely.
One other thing
Yes.
one other video before we jump to any of the discussions or panels. Um, uh, on one end of the spectrum, there are the videos that were more entertaining, right? That were more
Mm.
about clothes and creativity.
Hmm.
The Osmond video, I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, I did.
That video and the discussion that ensued afterwards. That one was just it was just very emotional.
Mm.
It caught my eye in a very different way because of the subject matter and the way it was presented. So for those that have not seen the Osmond video, the designer had taken clothing that had been donated and provided to at thrift shops and secondhand clothing stores. I forgot what they're called in the UK, but thrift shops. And these clothes all had the label of, let me look at it. I believe it was made in Bangladesh. Yes,
Again.
so made in Bangladesh, right? So he took the clothes that had been, given away by people and donated. He took these clothes, went to Bangladesh, and met with the women and met with the people who actually created and sewed these clothing. Not exactly the same
Mm.
pieces, but
Mm-hmm.
the women and people, the seamstresses in Bangladesh. And he showed them the clothes, and he wanted to talk to them about what their perception was in terms of who is the person that wears these clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is their life like, what do they eat, what do they look like, because these people that create these clothes in these factories, they don't get a chance to actually try the clothes. They just make it, they
No.
produce it, it gets shipped out. These women actually got a chance to try the clothing on and get to experience them for the first time. They talked about these people are like, people that are able to dream. These people have dreams. These people have money.
Mm,
These people
mm,
have lives where they go to an office or they do something, they eat fruit, right? Things that they don't get to have in their daily lives because of their challenges and most likely the poverty that they're facing. The two worlds are so different, right?
true.
The people that create these clothes and these under these environments and conditions, and he even said some of these places were atrocious in terms of their
True.
environments and where people work. And the fact that when you buy these clothes and you don't know where these come from, and it was such an
Mm,
eye-opening video, very emotional, because it
mm,
showed the workers talking in silhouette on profile view.
mm,
um, it was very dramatic, and it was really very emotional, and it really just left a lasting mark in terms of just watching the video,
mm,
um, in a very different way from everything that I saw this past weekend. It was
mm,
just very
mm.
eye-opening, and so that was one that I just make sure I had to call out because it was just it was a wonderful video, and sad in the same time at the same time.
Mm.
So yeah.
I think I had to stop in the middle of it because I felt a bit overwhelmed,
Mhm.
and but it's the reality, right?
Yeah.
And just like what you said, like two different world, but it shouldn't be that way. So it's I think what he did is very incredible to bring it the awareness, even though we know it's there, but we need to really face it in a way.
Mhm.
So I think it's amazing that you brought it up too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, no. So that was something I wanted to call out there.
Mm,
So they had some tape panels. They had some interviews on Zoom. They had some Instagram live videos,
yeah.
and so different formats for interviews. What I will say about the interviews is that
Mm,
it was great to, again, learn more about some of the designers,
mm,
hear from them in their own words, understand the
mm,
challenges that they faced during, the past month of lockdown, what's happening in the world right now, how, everybody, regardless of who you are, I mean, the challenges that everybody faced during these times, everybody
mm,
was
mm, mm.
impacted, right? Um,
Definitely.
and it made them one of the things that came up often when I listened to these discussions is that they talked about how now is the time to take a pause and to think about,
Mm,
should we be doing fashion and fashion week the same way moving forward, right?
mm, mm.
It was a common theme that I heard in several discussions.
Yeah.
The challenges that many faced definitely came to mind when I was listening to some of these videos. And for me, it allowed me to go behind some of the brands that I had seen during Fashion Week, but I had never
Mm,
really, I never dove deeper into who the designer was and what their DNA was all about. And I
mm,
was able to appreciate that in terms of seeing who they are and learning more about them.
mm,
Um, One of them that came to mind, on the very first day, designer Lou Dalton, she designs menswear. I love listening to her talk and talking about, questioning, am I making something that's relevant, making clothing that isn't just fast fashion that, you wear one season and then you look for something else.
mm,
She talked about wanting to create clothes that had more longevity, right?
mm, mm,
Clothes that made an impact to her, made an impact to the wearer, so that you're like wearing something for many many times and several
mm,
seasons. It's not just, oh, I bought this once and I'm done with it, sort of thing,
mm,
right?
mm, mm.
Which is what sometimes happens in this world when you buy something very cheap and the next thing you know it's in the garbage or you're donating it because you don't want it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Most likely it's more of the former, where you just kind of throw it away, which isn't good for
Mm,
landfill and such. So to me, hearing that message about people looking and designers looking for relevancy in terms of
mm,
making sure that what they're creating means something to them and also has a place in the world for consumers. was something that really caught my eye and caught my ear in terms of just something that was important to hear.
Mm, mm. No, I think in the fashion world, you see everybody wearing the most latest, this latest thought. Uh, if you can afford it, great. If you get gifted from the brand, great. But otherwise, how, right? And for me, what I like is I like to continuously style different way, the same, same piece, but different way. And I think that's what fashion should be, right? And yes, the vintage and great. And if you are wearing, like, I don't know, 10-year-old jacket that from, you bought a long time ago, you still have it, then great. And that's me. Yeah, me
That's me
too.
too.
Some people say, like, going through the closet and, throw it away if you're not wearing 3 years. I have a clothes from high school. I literally put it out. I'm still wearing it, and I still have a dress, like one piece from my mother, that she used to wear when she was young, and it's so cool. So we have so many things that we can do, and I think the as people in the industry, yes, the designers, maybe they can use few season back clothes and bring it back and style different way, right? So for me, I think, yes, using sustainable product, or recyclable fabric, or their fabric that they used to use but they have leftovers and reuse, great. But I think also be able to use the previous collections clothes and mix into the new, so that the consumer who bought it see, oh, I can wear that in different way. I think that's because what he already created is already there. So what can we do with that, right? So that the people won't throw that away and go buy new and other things, because we already have it, right? So as a stylist, for me, like, that's how I started my personal styling, thing, is that I didn't want my client to throw everything away. So I told them, don't throw anything away. Wait till I go there. And I go and see their closet. Then we revive. Some, of course, it's just not going to match them, or it's just too old. So you have to throw it away. But I think the things that we need to be consciously doing is that how to rewear what we already have. It could be a fast fashion, it doesn't matter, it could be trendy stuff, whatever. But like my shirts, so this, I bought it, I don't know, like 3 years ago in Japan. So I'm wearing it the other way around than
Uh-huh.
when I bought it. But it looks like normal shirt, you know
It
what I mean?
works. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but we should be able to learn how to make it work,
Yeah.
right? So for instance, for your shirt, maybe you can cut your sleeves off, or I don't know, cut this part. I mean, really, right? We can be creative
Yeah.
as designers. And but I want the designers to show us with their previous collection, not entire collection, but pick some pieces. And some of the actually designer were doing that in the movie, use from the previous and cut
Yep.
it and sew it into it. When I saw that, I was like, great. I mean, it would be really great if they can pick a piece and migrate into the new collection, so that we can consumer, or the people who watching it, say, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. I can wear a new way.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
mean,
what that's how I feel. That's how I
yeah.
feel I can be contribute to that world, the new world.
No, it makes sense. And some of the designers were using fabrics from the previous collections,
Mm,
I mean, given the times, they had no other fabric other than what they had from the prior collection
yep,
or the prior season, or they're using, fabric and dead stock that they have in their studio that
yep,
they can create into something else. I mean, that
mm,
reminds me of so there was an interview with Christopher Rayburn and Dylan
mm,
Jones from GQ,
mm,
and they
mm,
were talking about Christopher Rayburn. He's known for taking, sustainability and being very eco-friendly and eco-conscious when it comes to his clothing and stuff. He talked about his new design collection called Ray Found,
Mm-hmm.
I forgot, Raefound, where he takes existing clothing and restyles it and does something new to it. So an
Mm.
example was he takes military clothing that has been
Okay.
produced for the military and he creates it and styles it and makes it his own, Christopher Rayburn, style. And he was actually
That's
wearing one of his
awesome.
shirts that he had done. So,
Uh,
taking what's already out there in existence
yeah.
and making it and giving it new life,
Yeah.
instead of maybe what it was originally designed for. I mean,
Mm.
who knows? Maybe we're going to see hospital scrubs and hospital gowns, when everything calms down and there are all these extra clothing that, you
True.
can repurpose. I mean, listen, I will tell you, when I was younger, um, my mom used to work in the hospital. I would wear some
Oh,
of those scrubs and stuff like that a
oh
lot
really?
outside. Yeah, I mean that was some of the style, and so I'm dating myself,
That's
but
so
yeah,
cute.
I've done that before. So just as fashion and stuff. So definitely being able to take what's already in existence and giving it new life is
Mm.
definitely something that came out in some of these discussions and videos,
Definitely.
um, in terms of that. I think the other
Mm.
thing that came out a lot in the videos is really just everybody was questioning the whole, the speed of fashion, fast fashion,
Mm.
all these seasons and all these collections and all the fashion weeks that are happening. They're all talking about looking at it differently. How do you make it more
Mhm.
sense? How do you make more sense
Mm.
out of it?
Mm.
Releasing clothing at the right time so it's
Yeah.
appropriate for the retailer as well as the consumer. We
Mm.
touched a little upon this in the last, VRAI Talk episode. Um,
Yes.
but it came up a lot during the Palmer Harding discussion, on the
Mm-hmm.
last day of Fashion
Mm.
Week. They were talking about, they stepped away from some of the big fashion shows and released their collections on their own pace, on their own
Mm-hmm.
time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were even talking about, the designers talked about, maybe it's not releasing spring, summer, or winter, fall. Maybe it's releasing winter, spring collections and then summer, fall collections so that when you release them and then they go through the season and they all can go on sale at the same time once the season is
Oh,
over.
that's
Like
kind of genius. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we're always struggling with how do you take winter clothing and transition to spring and
True.
cooler
True.
months. If the designer starts thinking about that already, how do you take a piece of clothing or jacket or whatever and you can give it a little flexibility so you can go from one season to another, and then
Mm-hmm.
once the brand new season starts completely, that's when you unleash and avail a new
Mm-hmm.
collection and such. So it was a little interesting thing that they talked about in terms of thinking about seasons differently. So
I think it was first for the first time. I think it did good. It's because our expectation is in a way nowhere.
mhm.
We expect it, but then we're not really expecting anything because we don't know what to expect. So for that, when we see it, just like, oh, okay, kind of accept it, what it is.
Yeah,
Whereas it's not like disappointing or anything. It's just we just okay, well, this is how it is. So now that this has done, I think for the next July, it's going to be for the Paris and Milan,
yes, and then
right?
couture afterwards.
And the couture. So I think in a way, people see what it has been done and be able to take it from here to farther. So I think we're just going to start building something different. So I'm curious how it's going to be after this.
Yeah, it'll be, thank you to London Fashion Week for kind of paving the way
Mm,
for what's going to come in the next month here for Milan and Paris. But my gut is, though, because a lot of the messaging that came out during the London Fashion Week digital genderless events, there was a lot of sustainability, which, and I
mm,
know that London definitely has taken the charge when it comes
mm,
to being sustainable, eco-friendly. It'll be, I have a feeling the Paris and Milan shows may take a different tone. I don't know, in terms of
mm,
what they're going to focus on in terms of a
mm,
lot of their messaging.
mm,
I'm sure they'll talk about seasonality, fast fashion,
Mm,
and all that stuff, and they'll touch upon it as well. But I have a feeling each fashion week is very different, and
mm,
there'll be a very different vibe when the time comes to see those digital shows. So it'll
sure.
be interesting. I can't wait to see it. It was great to see this, and just it's good to have Fashion Week happening again.
Yeah, I agree.
Given everything that's happening. So something to look forward
Sure,
to is what I'm saying. So I can't wait to
sure.
see what it's going to be. I mean, it'll be different, but it'll still be, it'll be great to be able to, for the world to see more about what Fashion Week is all about, because for many times it's been a closed little bubble and world that we've been living in. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
yeah,
It definitely brought me something different, and the creativity, the positivity. Not necessarily all the movie was giving me the positivity, but still, I think it's nice to see what's going on in the other side of our own bubble, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
good. Well, listen, this was wonderful. I'm glad we had a chance to connect again and to talk about Fashion Week. And
definitely.
we'll set up a time for the next Fashion Week, because that'll be here before we know it,
Yes.
in maybe two
July, no?
weeks. Yeah, early July, so it'll be like in 2 weeks.
Oh, so who starts first, the Milan or the Paris? Milan, no?
I forgot. I'll have to take a look. They're like back to back, 1 week after another. So
Okay.
back to
You
back.
know, I've
Yeah,
never been to Milan Fashion Week, so I'm actually excited to see what they're going to show.
yeah, yeah. Haven't
Yeah,
been either.
yeah.
So we'll we'll
Oh,
we'll
true,
we'll
true,
watch it
true.
together.
Yes, let's do
All right. Well,
that.
listen, it's been wonderful catching up with you. Thank you for joining me for another
Same
episode
here.
of Ray Talk.
I love
And
it.
to everyone, thanks so much for joining us for our second episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And make sure you subscribe, because we have more Ray Talks coming. I've got a couple more lined up. Chioko doesn't even know about what I'm going to be doing next, but
Really,
we'll
am I
have.
in or what?
I'll let you know. And
Okay.
so, with that said, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye bye. Bye, Chioko.
Bye. Bye, Danny.
Bye.